Good afternoon. It's a huge pleasure to be here in Dubai at the World Governance Summit and to think about how demography, economics, technology, and geopolitics are intersecting. We're at a time where we have to rethink everything. When I first thought about demography, I was hearing about the demographic bomb. The scare then was too many people. The planet seemed to be full. And now the concern is the opposite. Too few people, at least too few young people. And the concerns are plummeting birth rates, well over half the countries in the world, way below replacement level. And the trend is, in everywhere except Africa, that we're going to see declining populations well before the end of this century. In fact, the current predictions are that we're likely to peak at about 9.5 billion people and be around where we are today, 8 billion people in the year 2100. Of course, what one thinks about this depends very much on where one is, what one's lifestyle is, and we should welcome population aging. It's a wonderful thing. We're living longer, healthier lives. And we should particularly welcome if we can have a healthy life expectancy. Because at the moment, while life expectancy is increasing by about 2 years every decade, that's about 20%. So while I'm with you for 15 minutes, your average life expectancies should improve by about 3-4 minutes. This is the good news. We're learning. Smoking kills you. Eat healthy food. What causes cancer? And so on. This learning process is worldwide, and it's very rapid. But unfortunately, with current technologies, there's very little progress on neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. And so we're heading, for the next 20 years or so, to population average life expectancies being near 90 and very rapidly growing numbers of people who are mentally not quite there. Very dependent, financially draining, and also emotionally draining for families and friends and care systems. After that, we get into a much better world where we have healthy and mental life expectancy. AI will revolutionize many things, and it's certainly going to revolutionize and is revolutionizing medicine. So I'm glad that my children don't have to worry about what I worry about. They don't have to worry about neurodegeneration. They don't have to worry about the cancers that afflict elderly people, because by the time they get there, these things will no longer be a great challenge. So we should welcome it, but we should understand the implications of rapidly declining workforces. Nothing will change this. No amount of government policy is going to increase fertility rates. This is not about a one-child policy. This is not about governments encouraging people. And some countries are spending 5% of their GDP, like Poland, on trying to increase their populations unsuccessfully. This is about women's rights to choose and people's choices. And we should welcome people having a choice and the availability of contraception. The choice is that people want to have smaller families. It's partly that they want to work themselves, they want to exercise different preferences, they want to go on holidays, they want to do different things. And it's also because the cost of children has gone up exorbitantly, particularly accommodation, but also schooling, health, and other costs. And unless we address those things, we will not see rising populations. But I believe this is here to stay. It's global. There's not a single country in the world where fertility is going up significantly. Even in Africa, it's coming down dramatically. Ethiopia was 6 children on average per mother 30 years ago. Today, it's 4. This is happening very rapidly around the world. But it is still the highest birth rate, and Africa is the only continent where fertility is way above replacement levels still, even though it's coming down very rapidly. So what do we see in this? We see in this wonderful country of Dubai that you can increase your population without increasing fertility through one obvious way, which is migration. This country has about 90% of the population migrant. And that works in the Emirates. So one doesn't only have to give birth, one can also bring in people by being dynamic, by giving people jobs, by creating the environment where people want to be. And that's happening in great cities around the world. And what we also learned from Dubai is you can really do it anywhere. This is a desert, very little water. This is a place which is hostile to population growth, and yet Dubai has been able to overcome this to create this extraordinary, vibrant city. And that shows that with the intelligence and with the resources, you can do extraordinary things anywhere. Singapore shows the same thing, a tropical swamp that is now the richest country on earth. We can bring things together to create opportunity. Technology, of course, and population and economic dynamics are hand in glove. It's technology that's giving people the right to choose how many children they have, contraception and other technologies. AI will replace many jobs. It already is. What one thinks about this depends on the intersection of these things. China has 4 million less workers this year than last year. AI doing jobs that people used to do is a very good thing in China. Africa has 15 million new jobs seekers every year. 15 million young people coming onto the labor market every year in Africa. They need the repetitive jobs that led virtually all countries in the world to develop. The Asian miracle, the European industrialization. These were based on repetitive rules-based jobs in manufacturing, in services, call centers, back offices like those in Bangalore. None of that will exist in the future. There will be no call centers. There will be no back offices of people moving invoices around. It's digital in the cloud. And of course, there will be no mass production lines. That's all robotics. It's no accident that Japan has been at the forefront of technological change. It invented robotics. It invented vending machines and automation because it also was at the forefront of demographic change. It experienced population decline before anyone else in the world. And that led to the relative cost of labor and capital changing and the desire to supplement and replace, in sometimes, people with machines. And that's why automation came from Japan. But this is, of course, global now. And the bottom rungs of the development ladder, on which all countries of significant size, like India and China and European countries and the US have grown in the past, those rungs are now removed by automation and robotics. And so we have to ask ourselves the question of where will the jobs come from? UBI is not an answer, universal basic income. There's not enough money to give everyone money to not work. And work is more than simply a hand down. Work is self-worth, networks, skills. It's why many people get meaning in life through their work and through the friendships and the things they produce in their work. And so a future world will not be successful if it's one of charity, simply. It has to be one of a pull-up, not a hand-down. And so we have to think newly, in new ways, about how demographics, technology, and economic growth will go hand in hand. We don't have the answers for that. To get old when one's rich is fine. We move to worlds of what economists call non-tradable services, massages, meals, hospitality, high value-added professional services, elderly care, and that's labor-intensive. And very little of that will be done by machines. We don't want a machine to give us a massage or to look after our elderly parents. And so there will be a need for people in large numbers in these. That's one of the reasons why the projections of productivity improvements coming from AI are so misguided. Some of the big banks are saying that AI will double productivity growth and double growth in Europe and US. This is fantasy. Because if you look at the structure of the economy and what people are spending their money on, they're not spending it on things that will be rapidly enhanced by AI. We don't want to play golf faster. We don't want to have faster massages or meals or elderly care and other things. And that's where a growing share of GDP is going. 70% goes into these non-tradable services. But when you're in a low-income country, manufacturing, you can get very rapid productivity improvements. And in certain services, you can. But then the question is, do you want to? Because you need to employ people. And how do you move through that transition? As we move forward to the future, we will see the economic center of gravity, which used to be over the Atlantic, moving rapidly to Asia. 60% of the world economy. At the moment, it's above our heads, above Dubai. Moving rapidly to Asia, and nothing will change that. If you compound the growth rates of average rates of 5% growth with 2/3 of the world's population, you understand why. This becomes the motor of the world. The Atlantic, North America, South America, Africa, Europe, inevitably become a smaller and smaller part of the world economy. Latin America, Europe, and North America, not Africa, also become a smaller and smaller part of the world's population. And I believe many things will depend on what our attitudes to immigration are. Because as our workforces contract, and the European workforce will be 1/3 smaller in 2050 than it is today, and the North American one will, I think the attitudes we have today of keeping people out will become more like the attitudes in Dubai, which is we need people. How do we treat them fairly? How do we bring them in on a contractual basis? How do we make these arrangements? I believe the attitudes will change. But before we get there, we're going to go through this phase of anti-immigration. What does that mean? It means that our growth rates will be undermined, our innovation will be undermined, and the acceleration of this part of the world and Asia relative to North America, South America, and Europe will be accelerated through the own mistaken policies in those regions on these matters. You cannot be an innovation hub of the world if you keep out foreign scientists and academics and innovators. And of course, half of small businesses in Europe and in England and the US are created by foreigners. Try and think of a Silicon Valley iconic firm that was not created by a migrant. This is not an accident. The exceptional people, the risk takers, the people that innovate because they see things differently and they need to help their families and those they send money back to. So we're in through a transition. We're a transition where this part of the world, Dubai, the Emirates, are well placed. The center of gravity. A transition where demographics, economics, and technology come together. And through coming together, they determine the growth rates and prospects of different regions. And with a lag, which is about 20 to 30 years, that shapes economic power and might. And that shifts also. Those processes of transformation are always difficult. But they are made much easier if one understands these megatrends, if one embraces them, and if one rides with the waves rather than against the tide. I wish you all luck as you do that. Thank you very much.